Yeah, no problem. Thank you both. Thanks for
I,
having
un-
me.
I understand we're going to find a lot more out about you and your role at Intersys today, which is good. So, first thing, obvious question, really. Can you just let us know who you are, what your job title is, and pretty much what you do at Intersys?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So my name's Jake Ives, and I'm head of security at Intersys. I've worked for the business for just over 12 years now. And originally started as an engineer, spent a few years in that role, then going off onto to more consultancy, and really I kind of the natural fit for me was working in cybersecurity. So yeah, that's me.
So, what's a typical day like?
So yeah, for me, because of the size of the business at the moment, well, because of the size of the business, I mean, we're growing rapidly. When I first joined 12 years ago, I think there was about 10 of us in total. There's now obviously a lot more of us, but we're still not that big of a company. So I typically find in my day to day I wear multiple hats. So typically, what I do is really establishing the threats that exist today, and understanding understanding what the risk is to our current customers and any new customers that we're bringing on, and helping them make use of the technology that they have to either fight those threats or recommending new bits of technology for them. Um, I very much, most of the time, very focused on the security aspect of the business. Um, but but it doesn't stop there really. I mean, I still find that on a day to day I get involved in or oversee a lot of the projects that are ongoing, and advise from a security perspective, making sure, for example, if there's an ongoing email migration, making
Yeah.
sure that we're using the right email migration tools, that things like data residency are taken into account, and if that data is encrypted in transit, and all of the other various considerations that one must think of when doing an email migration. So I'm still very involved in the projects that happen across the board. Um, and yeah, as well, a lot of the time spending time with our customers, with security, with a security service on calls with them, really helping them get the most out of what it is that they're paying for, whether that be tools from us or consultancy, kind of leading them in the right direction in terms of where their focus should be, in fighting off some of the prominent threats that exist today, and reducing their general attack surface.
So do you also have something like a support service? So say for example, someone has an issue with their email or they think they've got a virus, can they pretty much call and I mean how does it work? Do they log a ticket if there's a problem and then you solve it? Do you have that
Well,
type of thing in place?
absolutely. So with the security part of the business, we offer a managed security service. Every customer has their own SOC at address that they can contact. It's where a lot of the alerting goes as well. Um, but if we're doing our job right, you shouldn't need to contact us, because the idea of our managed security offering is that we're looking at what's going on in the background and identifying any potential issues before before they become a larger problem. So look out for with the sorts of alerts we receive on a day to day. We look out for things like impossible travel activity on cloud accounts, atypical travel, um, any kind of access from abnormal user agents, or devices that aren't commonly used by users. We look for all of those sorts of things and investigate them behind the scenes, and then raise any potential issue with the customer, and help them overcome any problem there. Um, but the customer, to answer your question, yeah, the customer can reach out via phone
Yeah.
or email if they have any sort of concern. Um, it could be something like phishing emails. If they've received an email, they're not sure if it's a phishing email, and they just want to check it with us, then they can. Um, uh, but yeah, our approach is generally to be as proactive as possible.
And do you have like a typical type of customer or industry, or I mean, do you help pretty much anyone in any industry, any sector?
So I guess the beauty of an MSP is, and in kind of our context as well, we deal with a broad range of different customers across different industries, from pharmaceuticals to mining to education,
Okay.
government bodies. We've pretty much been through all of the industries really, and I think what's really nice about dealing with such different types of businesses on a day to day is we get to learn a lot about how they work and how it differs from other businesses and the culture of that business, and um, yeah, we can identify things like kind of the industries that have weaker security than others, and do a bit of internal benchmarking. That all really helps. And everyone works in a different way as well, and that all really helps when we're doing our research.
Yeah. Have you had any specific tech project that you've done, or anything that you've worked on that you would say is probably the most interesting project you've done, or the most valuable to customers, or both really?
Um,
Key project?
so there's quite a few. I mean, this year we've done several projects already. Typically, what we're finding these days is many customers want to harness the power of the cloud, and cloud native use a lot of the sort of microservices and the different other offerings from people like from businesses, vendors like Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud Platform, AWS, and others. We've had some really interesting projects around that, like not so much lift and shifts, but um, one of the projects we did earlier in the year, we looked at an organization's IT that was mostly on premise. We understood what was still required, and what wasn't required, what we could migrate off to the sorts of microservices and things in Azure, and then what kind of other services they had internal we could just migrate as they were. And as part of that, there was a whole security due diligence piece, really looking at the sorts of data they were holding already and whether or not that should continue to exist in the cloud, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that we have quite a few of those migrations to clouds, a lot of email migrations, um, complete. I think the COVID period was quite interesting. Um, Lifting and shifting people away from what was kind of considered a traditional setup to a new setup that was, very much, very, very different to what they were used to, but also so much more advanced and secure. It's difficult to name any one project because we do so many of them. But certainly from my perspective, I really enjoy those migrations to the cloud.
So, did you mention something? Did you say cloud native?
Yes, yeah.
So, I think, and cloud naive. So, can you just summarize briefly to some people that might be listening to this who may not be familiar with those terms, what you actually mean by those terms?
Yeah, so the way I would understand cloud native is making use of everything that is available in the cloud, rather than just like, so for example, let's say that you've got a virtual machine that's hosted internally on some virtualization platform, Hyper-V or VMware or something, rather than just migrating the VM as it is into Azure. um, it's about utilizing um, the the other offerings within Azure, and maybe compartmentalizing those the existing service. So let's say, for example, let's say that I have a virtual machine that's running internally. For example, it runs a web application, right? It's all on one box. Rather than just migrate that virtual machine to the likes of AWS or Azure, we'd be looking at app services in Azure and logic apps and things like that, looking at splitting out the functionality of that application into those different kind of the microservices that are offered, and cloud native really just making sure that you're harnessing that power that's available to you, and in turn improving security posture, but also saving on cost as well.
But would you say that there's any issues or thing to think about when you're moving to a new cloud system?
Yeah, I would, for me, I'd say obviously security. It's understanding um, uh, the gaps that exist within the cloud and ensuring that you're aware of the risks that exist. So, for example, if I was moving a system into the cloud, or a set of systems into the cloud, I'd be questioning, how do I access this system? Or how will I continue to access this system now it's on a cloud platform? You'd be thinking about VPNs, ensuring that network security groups in Azure are sufficiently configured so that you're not just allowing the public internet access or visibility of your RDP ports and management ports, SSH. It's considering the bigger picture. Um, don't just think of it as an exercise where you're moving something somewhere else to save money. You also need to think of that bigger picture as well, understand what the risks are, and make sure that you partner with a business that knows of those risks and knows how to configure your systems correctly in the cloud.
So talking of
Can I jump
risks,
in there, please? Because I
of
think
course,
what
then.
Jake has demonstrated magnificently is that often a businesses move into the cloud. This is the first time that these people have done this, and there are a whole list of issues and queries, that Jake has just mentioned, RDP ports, etc., SSH. All of this is stuff that Jake in particular, but in his team, have done many times before. So by asking someone with Jake's experience to be able to lead your team, you're getting all that experience without having to pay for him to come and work with you full time, because that costs a lot. I know that.
So,
Thanks,
I mean,
Jake.
talking about cybersecurity and risk, so I know lots of people have heard of the term ransomware. So, I mean, it's an open question, really. What are your thoughts on ransomware? Obviously, you can't say you love it because
No,
you're head of security, but keen to know what your
it's
thoughts are on that, and maybe as well give a bit of brief in terms of what it is to people that might not be familiar with it.
Yeah. So the way I understand ransomware is it's something that typically, yeah, a threat actor will find a way into the system, pivot across the network, plant a payload, and and effectively stay present on the system for a number of months or years even, um, to establish as much information about the environment as possible, then to go on to launch, um, trigger the ransomware, effectively then displaying, a message, encrypting all of the data on the machines and displaying a message and saying, look, if you want this data back, you're going to have to pay a hefty fee for that. If you don't pay it, we're going to leak all of your data, and overnight you won't have a business anymore. That's kind of the way. I mean, there's different ways in which ransomware can be deployed into an environment, um, but but yeah, it's very. I mean, it's more common these days. Um, and I've worked and have heard of stories where people have actually just paid the ransom because they
Really?
don't have things like backups in place, and or they don't know how to make a payment, a crypto payment or something like that. Um, there's Yeah, I mean,
It's
ransomware, no
likely
one
that
wants it, right?
they'll only get picked again, won't they, if they keep paying? Or if they pay one, then they'll know they're an easy target for it to keep happening. Would have thought.
It's a good point, but I think it's ensuring that it doesn't happen in the first place. It's ensuring that as a business you know where your gaps exist in your systems
Yeah.
and working as hard as you can with an external partner or your internal IT to try and mitigate, to reduce that attack surface. Um, I, I mean, if really to avoid ransomware or any sort of infection on a network, a business always wants to ensure it's adhering to like the principle of least privilege,
Yeah.
that users aren't running with admin roles and that users can't just install software themselves and that there's procedures in place. Also that you've got all of your third party software is up to date and you're running Windows updates in a timely manner
Mhm.
on machines. Um, that's all very important stuff, and I think for the most part, if organizations know their gaps and work, prioritize them, prioritize the ones with the highest severity, then it's less likely that you're going to become victim to one of those attacks.
And what about MFA, multi-factor authentication? How important do you think that is for people to be using
I
that?
think it's non-negotiable, to be honest, in this day and age. And I think everyone is starting to realize that. I mean, you receive an like, you know, I've seen, we've all seen them. We've all seen those phishing emails, and some of them, where Microsoft have gone to lengths recently with some of the changes that they've made to kind of keep threat actors out. Hackers have got smarter, and we're in the era now where people are harnessing that power of AI as well to make those phishing emails look even more convincing than they ever did before. And when you take that into consideration, more people are likely to fall victim to clicking on a link within an email and actually entering their username and password. Um, I mean, we run phishing simulations all the time across different industries, and very rarely do I see, um, do I see any business that has, um, no user that's clicked, interacted with the email, and actually entered information into it. It's always going to happen because the threat actors are getting smarter. But without MFA, with that username and password, it's game over. Um, once the fractor has that username and password, they're into your mailbox. If you haven't got if you don't know the gaps that exist within your environment, you've got things like basic authentication enabled in your 365 tenant. That's someone's with that username and password, they'll connect to that mailbox. They'll via POP or IMAP and download a whole copy of it. Um, Absolutely non-negotiable. MFA must be enabled everywhere. We're even seeing threats more recently, like with the evil proxy campaign, um, where MFA is being bypassed. So, if it's becoming
Wow.
easier to bypass MFA than not having MFA,
Scary.
you could just imagine what
Yeah,
that
yeah.
looks like. So yeah, absolutely. Everyone should have it. If you don't have it, then you really should
Yeah.
enable it.
I know as well from you, Tim, that there's a service that you provide. It's called is your data on the dark web? Is that correct? And you can actually do a
Correct.
report
Yeah.
to see if your email passwords are on the dark web. And I guess what you're saying, if you have MFA, if someone then gets your password on the dark web, they're less likely to be able to get into it. But again, now with this evil proxy you've mentioned, it is quite a concern. So if anybody does want to find out if their data or the passwords are on the dark web, we can help you to find that. Um, so just a couple more questions, actually, Jake. I know we're taking quite a lot of your time. So would you say you work with different partners, and how do you pick those partners, and the kind of partners that you pick, why do you pick them? Is it because of, like the solutions that they provide? So how does that work?
So I mean, there's quite a few things actually that quantify whether or not it's worth our time and effort to work with another partner, and one of those is they have to understand our culture as a business. They have to understand that we're trying to do the best for our customers and we want to offer the best service. So if they're offering something to us which we're then going on and offering to our customers, and there's a problem with that software, if we can't get it resolved with them as quickly as possible, then they don't understand us as a business. We want to make sure that we're working with a partner that understands the importance of any issues that are raised, and
Yeah.
makes every effort to try and get them resolved. But also we pick partners based on as part of being ISO 27001 certified as a business, there's that focus on doing due diligence on your supply chain. So we do due diligence on our supply chain. So for example, we send questionnaires, security questionnaires to our suppliers before we purchase any software from them,
Okay.
to understand how, what their security practice looks like,
Yeah.
and how they handle our data, or any exchange of email. So yeah, typically new suppliers undergo a security due diligence exercise. We look to really get to know our partners, and build relationships with our partners as we do with our customers. So the same as we do, our customers, we'll meet with them from time to time. We'll take them out for a drink, all sorts. We do the same with our partners as well, and they do the same for us. We get invited to their events, and we get to talk to their team of employees, and understand how they can better help us, and what we can do to improve the quality of the software that they offer. Um, yeah, it's finding someone that yeah, ticks all the boxes security wise, isn't taking the mickey when it comes to you know pricing.
Okay.
Is we want to, yeah, we're honest to our customers. We don't want to have to charge them any more than we need to. We want to provide quality, value,
That's good.
and something that's secure.
Yeah, really good. Okay, are there any trend or development in this industry that I guess we are working, that you're looking forward to, or you're a fan of, or excited about?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I think. I mean, I know I mentioned COVID earlier, but I think it's really reshaped the way that we all work, and the technology landscape. We're seeing a lot more home workers these days,
Yeah.
and where vendors and the likes of Microsoft have realized that there are more home workers. There's more of an emphasis on that remote working and security controls, for to support remote workers. Microsoft Intune, absolutely fantastic. Some really good stuff going on in that space. Um, AI as well. I know it's a bit of a buzzword at the moment, but it's truly
Definitely.
exciting. You look at how far it's come in the last couple of years. Think of where we started with it all. I mean, it's not really AI, but I just remember in 2014, 2015, the time when you bought that an Amazon Echo or something like that, and you thought, wow, this is cool. And that was the start of it. And then came ChatGPT, and now Copilot, and you look at how
Yeah.
Copilot interacts with, um, you could ask Copilot, what in the meetings that I've missed, tell me what's happened, tell me where my name was mentioned. Just some examples, but AI is truly exciting as well, and even how we can harness that from a security perspective as well, because a lot of what we do when we pick up security alerts and things, there's a lot of understanding the origin of access and the device that access the account, and loads of other different parameters that we check through. And we try to automate as much as possible, but it's not always possible. There's still that human-led approach,
Yeah.
but we can offload some of that to AI, as well. Make better sense of the alerts that we're receiving, and help us work a lot faster. I mean that's really quite exciting. And there's the Copilot for security. I think it's in kind of general. It's generally available now. But even like that for ingesting. It will look at logs from Sentinel and Defender, the Defender stack, and it can build KQL for you. It can analyze a lot of the alerts that are coming through that typically you might spend 10 or 20 minutes trying to make sense of, depending on the complexity
So
of
it
them.
saves a lot of time, really.
So yeah, it saves a lot of time. So yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, I think there's a lot I'm excited about. I mean, I'm a bit of a bit of a nerd. Um, so it's all very exciting to me. But yeah, no, I think yeah, just to name a few there.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Tim. Is there anything that you would like to ask Jake?
No, I mean, Jake, you've just blown me away with all the answers there.